Security forces have increased checks and controls around hotels where some of those foreign journalists are staying. Well, Robin Kroner has been covering the story for us from across the border in South Africa. She joins us now from Johannesburg. Robin.
Hi there, Fanuda. Well, we are hearing reports that there has been, and perhaps might be continuing, a crackdown on unaccredited foreign journalists who are operating inside Zimbabwe illegally under Zimbabwe's tight media laws. We understand that riot police have been raiding at least one hotel, perhaps even more, where it's known that foreign journalists stay, looking specifically for foreign journalists who are not accredited. It's unclear if anybody, as of yet, has been detained, but indeed the situation is fluid, and we do understand that the situation is pretty tense.
And Robin, what happens, to those foreign journalists, or what is it like for those foreign journalists who do decide to report from Zimbabwe?
Well, there is a risk involved because Zimbabwe's media laws, as I said, are tight, and they have been since about 2000. Between 2000 and 2004, there was widespread harassment, even violence, and a number of journalists, particularly local journalists, were detained. In the run-up to these elections, regional diplomacy allowed for these media laws to be slightly loosened up. So previously, if you went into Zimbabwe unaccredited illegally, you ran the risk of a 2-3-year jail sentence. That, I think, from what I gather from speaking to a number of people, has been relaxed. But that still means that anybody who is unaccredited by the Zimbabwean government and is working in the country illegally, according to them, does face arrest. Whether or not they're liable to be jailed, that's another story, but definitely thrown out of the country might even be a best-case scenario if you're caught as a journalist.
And Robin, if these reports are true about military police surrounding hotels which are housing foreign journalists, it comes on a day that Robert Mugabe, 5 days after the election, has been seen on TV, public footage, television footage. How can we interpret this?
I think there's a sense that this government is in crisis. We're aware of that, and particularly, I think, an indication that the situation, particularly for the ruling party, is becoming quite serious and at a level where decisions are having to be made, and we're obviously not sure what those decisions are, is that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission tells CNN that the Senate results the announcement of the Senate results have been postponed. Now, as you said, by law, both the Senate and the presidential results, which haven't yet been announced officially, should be announced at least by Friday, tomorrow. And now we're hearing that the Senate results are going to be postponed. Unclear what's happening with the presidential results. So the fact remains is that not only have these results been delayed in being announcing, we now know they're being postponed. So all sorts of machinations going on behind the scenes, no doubt. And Friday, again, D-Day perhaps for Robert Mugabe, a showdown perhaps looming because he meets his Politburo on Friday. And as we understand, as the source, a member of the ZANU-PF party says that the party is split, is divided over whether Robert Mugabe should leave, should stand down, or whether he should fight on. So I think Friday could be interesting. And there really is a sense that the heat is being turned up and the tipping point perhaps is imminent.
And Robin, we're talking there about international journalists in Zimbabwe, but you've just been telling us about tomorrow perhaps being a showdown. What do you know is being reported inside the country about what's going on?
I think there is a sense that at least the Zimbabweans that our sources are talking to say that there is a wide sense that most people feel the MDC, the opposition, has won this election. We know officially they've won a majority in the parliament, and that Morgan Tsvangirai, the leader, has claimed victory in the presidential vote. And there is a sense also people are fearful that there might be violence if Mugabe decides to hold on or decide to take control in defiance of the people's wishes. There is this term that has been thrown about, and I heard it a number of times when I was up on the border in the last few days, that people might want to defend their vote. And whether that means taking to the streets, well, we'll see what happens in the next few days. But indeed, there is a sense that change is imminent. Every Zimbabwean I've spoken to over the past 2 weeks feels they want change. what kind of diplomacy is taking place. There are signs that Thabo Mbeki, the South African president, is trying to push forward some sort of peaceful transition, but all very much fluid, all very much behind the scenes. And of course, this is very high stakes. Robert Mugabe is desperate to cling to power. He does not want to go, and the prospect of a runoff might be even more humiliating, but then it might be his last chance to hold on to power. So many Zimbabweans, of course, desperate for information, because that is also pretty tightly controlled, as you can understand. A lot of state media trying to keep the lid on what is happening, but a real sense that this country is in the throes of change, and whether this happens peacefully and in a smooth way, of course, it still remains very much to be seen.
Robin Kerno, thank you, reporting live from Johannesburg in South Africa.